Everybody, how's it going? Welcome to what is Fabrizio inking. Today I'm going to be working on a page from Horace H. Hoover, issue number 4. I'm still penciling issue 4, so the inking, usually I don't do inking until the very end, once I have a good idea of the whole issue, but I figured for these streams I would actually work on some pages occasionally, so this is actually, spoilers, page 1 of issue 4. So I'd probably just finish up this panel a little bit and then kind of go from there. Yeah, let's see who's in chat. Hey, Ara, how's it going? Looking forward to seeing you at Plastic City Comic-Con. Yep, yeah, I am excited. I just got back from Three Rivers Comic-Con. Well, not got back. I live in Pittsburgh, so I didn't have to travel. But that was a lot of fun. It was... I haven't done a lot of conventions, but it was the first time I've actually been to it, and I had a table there. So, yeah, I have some things to share. Oh, you know what? One second. I forgot my Michael Jackson glove, unfortunately. It looks goofy, I know, but when you're inking, it helps a lot. Essentially, it lets your hand sort of glide over the page when you're doing inking. If you get a little bit of like humidity or moisture in your hand, then it'll stick, and then it'll ruin potentially a nice stroke. Yeah, so just got back from Three Rivers, and if you can't hear me, let me know. Comic-Con, which was a lot of fun. It was a 2-day show, and I had my table. I think I posted on Twitter sort of the setup. I have like a big vinyl banner and a smaller one with Horace H. Hoover, with also some pages, some art from some pages in there as well. That way it's just not Horace and the logo. You actually get an idea of the interior of it. It was a good convention. There was a lot of stuff going on the same time, which wasn't ideal downtown and actually outside of the city. So it wasn't ideal as far as, competing for attendees, but it was still fun for sure. It's funny because when people walk by the table, there are some people that don't even look twice because it's not Marvel or DC or something like that. Which, I get to some degree. If you're there looking for certain things and, Horace H. Hoover doesn't really fit that bill, that's fine, I get that. And then there are people that sort of give it like the double take. Which, if they do that, they'll probably be back. Or, if I have a chance to, I'll say, hey, how's it going? And then they'll come over and we'll talk. But it's just interesting to see people's reactions to Horace H. Hoover. It's not immediately apparent, really, what the book could be. Is it funny? Is it pulp? Is it serious? It does have a guy that wears a helmet that looks like a vacuum cleaner on his head, so I understand that from the outside, it definitely could be more than one thing. So when people kind of stop, I understand that for sure. It will be interesting whenever I do some other stories, some other comics that are a little more easy to digest, we'll say, what the reception will be like then. So it'll be fun having more than one comic book that way, maybe Horace H. Hoover, sort of a cult detective, if it doesn't speak to you or strike your fancy, I have other books there that might be a little more what you're looking for. So I am excited about that. That'll be a while. So until then, it's just Horace H. Hoover. Yeah, so as far as Plastic City, I know it's a one-day show. It's in a hotel, which I'm really excited about. It sort of feels very old school, which I love. Yeah, I'm really excited about Plastic City. I'll have books there. I'll have issue 3, which, unless you were at Three Rivers, you don't have yet. So it'll be nice to get that in people's hands finally. I'm really happy with issue 3, so can't wait to hear what people think about that. So I have about 45 minutes or so to ink, which will probably get me this one panel. There's a lot of stuff in it. A lot of books, so as far as the convention in general, it was nice. It was downtown at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, which I've been to many times for other things. It was definitely relegated to like a section of the convention center, so it was just, I don't know what wing that would be considered, but it was good. It was pretty hard not to just shop, just to leave my table and kind of go around and take a look at other comics and things that I don't have access to normally. But I was there to introduce people to Horace H. Hoover, so that's what I did. And I met quite a few people, which was really nice. Meeting them in person and talking to them in person is just a very different thing than seeing a tweet or responding to something on Instagram. In other news, my resin models for Jacob Marley are currently in production. They look great, so I'll definitely have those for the fall and winter, if anybody missed them last time, because I sold out. One of the highlights from the convention, though, was definitely Ron Friends. I've never met him before. I know he does go to local conventions, but I always missed him, or I never got a chance to. So that was cool. Yeah, he is such a huge influence on me. I cannot overestimate the influence his art had on me. Just as much as John Buscema or anybody else from the 80s. I think it's because Ron Friends really has like a style that definitely seems to cross over. So he has some stuff that looks kind of, very John Buscema-like. I'm not saying he ripped him off or anything like that. And then there's some more Kirby style, which is very cool. So his stuff, every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, who did this, that one cover that I really loved? And many times I'm like, oh, it was Ron Frenz again. I was right next to like a booth that did soaps, so like casts of Star Wars or Marvel characters in soap. So that was, if I had to smell anything all weekend, that was probably a good thing. And the other was crocheting. So there was a woman there who sold crocheted like little animals or things like that. And she did really well at this convention. So that was interesting. It was really interesting. You never know what people are going to buy or really be into. So those crocheted little animals really attracted a lot of people. Psychotronic Squirkin. Hey, how's it going, Aaron? Looking good. Thank you very much. Yeah, whenever I'm doing pencils, like I said, I do all of the pencils first. So I'll do 32 pages of pencils, and then I'll switch to inking. But at least doing this on the weekends for these streams, I'm doing a little bit of inking while I'm getting done with the pencils. So that's always a help, because then there's a lot of warm up if you just kind of completely let that go by the wayside. It is exciting making my way through issue 4. Issue 5 is already planned out, written. So, and then that'll be the end of the miniseries for Horace H. Hoover. We'll see what happens after that. I definitely got a few comments regarding the quality and the print, which people seem to like. It's like a matte satin finish to the cover, which I really like. And I got some comments on that, which was nice. There's a few people that had the first 2 issues that also were there. Pick up the 3rd one. Miss Saren, hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining, I appreciate it. Man, I still need to click on your link for Hoover. Yeah, the website, I'm always updating it. I try to keep it up to date. The store, all issues will be available on the 21st of June. So if you sign up to my Substack, you'll get a coupon in the mail. And it's sort of an announcement basically whenever that's live. But you can actually see right now what'll be on sale and the price. I don't know if anybody plays guitar or any instrument out there, but I saw this website that lets you customize picks, guitar picks. So I'm like, man, do I want Horace H. Hoover guitar picks? I think the answer is yes. We'll see though. There is this temptation to essentially get everything with Horace H. Hoover printed on it. Yeah, Substack. Then you'll get the coupon, the discount. I might do a couple different ones for the discount, because depending on what people are buying, unless I just do sort of a percentage, we'll see. Yes, that would rule. All right, that's cool. Yeah, I just didn't know if there was anybody out there that would actually want something like that, but I thought that'd be pretty fun. I'm running out of room here. I've been making my way slowly through that Creeper Collected edition, which I'm not sure how many issues it is. It's taken me a while, though, which is great. I love whenever reading a comic actually takes a bit of time. Do you create music too? I do. I've been playing guitar for many years. I don't write a ton, but I do write occasionally. I've never really released anything or put it out there. But I was thinking about at least doing a little like musical intro to the channel instead of using like stock footage or stock audio. I was gonna do my own. I just haven't had a chance to. But I definitely, that's the plan. Sometime this summer I'll just do like a little intro, maybe some background music. As far as what I usually play, I play a lot of acoustic, so it's generally, finger picking type stuff. But recently I've picked up my electric again, so maybe it'll be more rock based. We'll see. Yeah, music is I talk about it quite a bit. It's a huge inspiration for me. I know some people, whenever they're looking for inspiration in particular, they look to old books or they look to old movies or something like that. But for me, I just need to pop in certain albums and my imagination just goes nuts, and I can pull like 4 stories, might be hyperbole, but yeah, that's a lot of where my inspiration comes from is music. So it's a big deal for me. When I'm looking for story ideas or something like that, I actually try to avoid anything that I think even might be resembling what I'm trying to do. So that's why I feel like music is a safe place to pull inspiration from, because it's more ethereal and it's more evocative than concrete, as opposed to if I start watching, I don't know, Doctor Who or something like that to try to get ideas. I don't want to intentionally, I would never intentionally steal, but sometimes you unintentionally pull things from things you're watching or reading. Yeah, rock. I was thinking jazz. I don't know. Like, it's one of those deals where, I guess depending on the stream or the channel, maybe that rock is a little too intense and people will be expecting something very, energetic when I'm going to be calmly sitting here inking, but I guess we'll see. That's awesome, buddy. Glad music works as an influence. Neil Gaiman did that too. That's cool. Yeah, I think we all have our, like, just things we go to, and for me, it's definitely music. Music, I think I've mentioned too before, like architecture. Like, anytime I see interesting architecture, I just imagine like stories going on inside a building or a house or like an area of town. That's a big one for me. And for anybody that has read issue 2 and you see like the big library, like architecture and spaces are really big for me as well. I gotta keep this background really light. So I just gotta make these lines as thin as I can, and I break them up. So it recedes into the background, because it could get really busy if all the books, the ones that he's wearing, and the building that he's in are the same weight. So if I use the same line weight, it would be impossible to read foreground, middle ground, and background. Which, admittedly, there's, not to cast aspersions, but there's a lot of artists that they really don't care about that, and they use maybe a pen, but they use the same weight of the pen for everything, and you'll get essentially like this feeling of like a gray tone on everything, and it's very hard to read it. Sometimes you can fix that via like coloring, but it just makes the colorist's job really hard. And since I'm the colorist, I try not to push things off on the colorist, because I'll hate a penciler or inker Fabrizio. Whatever leads you to what if, right? Yeah, that's 100% it. I do plan on doing some more videos. I don't want to call them instructional videos, but just things that I learn, and maybe that helps other people. For example, I've been reading this Creeper collected issues, and man, some of the Steve Ditko stuff is really incredible, and I don't know if anybody else draws clothing in folds as well as Steve Ditko in these Creeper issues. It's just one of those things that as soon as you see it, it really sticks out. Because sometimes we definitely have a tendency to just pay attention to, the superhero visually. Sometimes you go back and kind of parse through in detail all of the other stuff, but wow, he is incredible. The clothing on some of the characters, because they're suits, but the folds are done it's really amazing stuff. Like I said, I don't know, other than John Buscema, if anybody does clothing or has done clothing as well since then. I know that's a bold claim, but it just feels so naturalistic and right. I'm not saying people don't do interesting clothing or photoreal clothing, but like when Steve Ditko did a page with, 4 guys in suits fighting, the clothing was done in such a way that it was interesting to look at. And I think that's the kicker. It's naturalistic, but it's also really interesting how he, the shadows and the balance of the clothing is just really interesting to watch. That way, whenever the hero, in this case the creeper, actually does appear and he's this bright yellow and green and red, it just makes it all the more interesting instead of having to rely on that. So I'm definitely going to be studying some of that stuff and maybe doing some videos on things that I'm learning from it. Thanks for the 411 on the inks. Very interesting. Yeah, it's a big deal. A lot of times you'll see an image, you won't know what's wrong with it, because you'll see there's a bunch of detail, and detail is good, right? Detail is fun and interesting, but it doesn't read correctly, and that unfortunately can really make or break a drawing. That's why you need the blacks, you need enough grays and texture, and all of that stuff combined really makes a drawing. Because if I did a ton of gray and no black, like solid black, then you would know what I mean. I'm sure I can find an old drawing that I did where I didn't put enough blacks, I just put grays. And it's something that you're constantly working on, just because each image is unique and uniquely, compositionally. So, where you want your eye to go and where those blacks are placed are important and they're different each time. So you can't kind of come up with unfortunately, you can't come up with a shorthand and just keep repeating it. You really need to pay attention in each image. Great Ditko perspective. We'll look for the clothing. I can't describe what it is about Ditko's simplicity that still works today. Yeah, and admittedly, there's some Ditko stuff that is a little awkward. But man, I'm starting to think this creeper stuff, it was the best stuff he's done. I'm gonna have to check out what he did right after that, which I guess is Hawk and Dove, to see. But again, even when he's a little awkward, it's interesting. Like, it's interesting to look at. So the funny thing is, or the interesting thing is, like the stuff that I might pick up from another artist or a book, like you want to adopt because you realize it's the better way to do something, but you don't want to adopt it in the middle of a comic. So you really have to be like, okay, I want to put a pin in it, set that aside, and then after this issue, or after this comic, then I'll really do a deep dive and like implement some of those things that you learn. So for me, it's going to be, after I'm done with issue 4, the penciling, then I'm going to really, really kind of academically take apart all the Ditko stuff that I can. Because, let's face it, there's a lot of suits in Horace H. Hoover. He wears a suit. So it could really, and depending on the story, some are more fantastical than others, but if I can come up with some sort of language like Ditko did for clothing, it just makes for a much better story. I know there was a lot of like controversy recently about the Adobe stuff, the terms of service and what that means. I know a lot of people are trying to bail from Adobe. It is tough, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've been using Adobe for 20 some years, but I did buy Affinity. They have a suite. There's like an Illustrator, a InDesign, and a Photoshop version. They're all really good software. Thanks for popping in. I really appreciate it. Psychotronic Squirt Gun. Have a good one. There's a big controversy regarding Adobe, and I've been using Affinity on and off just to test it out for a couple years now. I actually laid out the first Horace H Hoover using Affinity, but I had to switch to Adobe to accommodate my previous publisher. But now with all of this terms of service and AI, and I think it's only a matter of time, even if they kind of roll back or they clarify. I think it's just a matter of time before they actually implement what sort of worst case scenario we have in mind. So yeah, I think I really might switch to Affinity. So I'm gonna maybe lay out issue 4 with Affinity, see how that goes. Done it before, so I don't imagine any issues, but we'll see. So I'm keeping his leg pretty free from gray. I'll wait till the end, and after I put in, which is essentially the middle ground, we'll see. Maybe I might put like a core black shadow right down the center to make it pop even more, but maybe not. I definitely want to wait until the end to see how much of that I actually need to do. Now, I mean, this is one panel, so I think they say most panels people look at for 1 second. That doesn't mean they don't come back to the panel and just pour over the detail and pick things out. So even though it's 1 second, I still really want to give it as much attention as I feel I can. So I'm gonna keep working it. Also, I did recently see, if you're from the Pittsburgh-ish area, there's an Ed Piskor convention. I just saw it pop up today or yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to look into it. It's in West Mifflin. So I'll most likely be attending it. I don't know what is all involved in that, but if it's near me, then unless there's something going on to prevent me from going, I'll probably go. I've been working on this panel for 40 minutes. That should give people a pretty good indication of how long just the inking takes for this kind of stuff. I work pretty fast, I would say. Obviously there are people that work faster than me, but I put a fair amount of detail, so I'm probably somewhere in the middle. Some people, you know, since I'm the penciler, I can really adjust the inks on the fly and not worry about essentially angering the penciler or anybody. But some people, you know, they'll really follow the pencils very, very follow them very accurately. But I can kind of see what needs to be done and adjust from there. I think we're getting pretty good for that panel. So we'll take a look the whole page. If I can actually fit it, which I can't. Let's see here. There we go. So we do still have a little bit to do up here. I have to finish this one. And then that. And then this page is done. We can move on to the next page. But the other thing you want to do, like when you're looking at it from this height, you want to make sure that you're also doing the same level of average gray. So if, you know, for example, in this image, if you have a ton of black shadow, maybe in the back here or something like that, and then you go down here and you don't have any, you want balance in each panel, but you also need balance across the page. So depending on how much detail and shadows you put up here, you really want to keep it relatively the same down in the bottom panels. Now there might be some scenarios where that just doesn't happen or it doesn't work, which is fine. But it's just something to look out for. Constantly be referencing the previous panels and the previous pages to make sure you're not veering off into some direction that you didn't intend. Because the pages feel very like autonomous at times, and they're out of context. So you can have a tendency to just treat it as such. So anyway, just keep referencing previous panels and previous pages as you're doing this, so you don't get too crazy. Okay, so let's work on this panel a bit. Now, I did not like how I inked his hand. I went outside the blue line and it messed it up completely. So what I'll try to do is all the inking first and then go back and do the whiteout and redo that hand. So I'll save that. But I can do all of the other inking in the meantime, a lot of the other books, and get most of that done before I go in and update the white or the hand. I got about 15 minutes left. I can get some of these books done. Again, these lines here that I'm doing are far away. So you really want to make sure that trying to get them as thin as I can. then breaking them up, which implies light. And even between this and this hill in the background, if I can, I even want to go lighter than that. I mean, there is a limit, of course, but... There's so much blue line here, I can't really tell what I had originally done. So it's definitely one of those scenarios where you just have to take the overall shape, the silhouette, and then kind of redraw it with the ink, which is fine. It just gives you another opportunity to get it right. Or wrong. But if you've already drawn something, the chances of you drawing it worse and worse each time just go down. As long as you can see what your mistakes are, then the next time you're thinking about that, trying to correct for that. I met some people that have definitely been on the channel, but don't really go into chat or anything like that. Feel free. Anybody that I've met or ran into, or if you have any questions at all, feel free to either put it in chat or the comments. So if you don't catch us live, it's not a problem. Just throw it in the comments. I get that, and I'll try to answer any questions you have or respond to any comments. Kind of messed up that line. Which is fine. This should be in shadow for sure. So the light's coming from the top left. That would all be in shadow from his body, which I will get to later. I don't usually jump right into the shadow just because I want to make sure the form is right and the perspective. And so once that's right, it's a lot easier to confidently and accurately put in the shadows. Got about 10 minutes left. I think I might stop a little early today to grab some food and do some things. So I think I will definitely be able to finish this next time. It shouldn't take more than 20 or 30 minutes to finish this out. But I appreciate everybody. Thanks for popping in. I will show my books one last time. Well, actually, I didn't show them this time. So if you are new to me or the channel, this is my comic book, Horace H. Hoover. I have 3 issues currently. Issues 1, 2, and 3. It's sort of a 1920s mystery. He's an occult detective, and he travels through these pocket universes and solves mysteries and crimes, we'll say. It's a 5-issue miniseries. First 3 are done, obviously, and issue 4 should be coming out in the fall sometime. They will be available on my store, HoraceHoover.com, on the 21st of June, so stop by. Quantities are definitely limited. It's a very short run of this book, but make sure you stop in and grab a couple issues. It's fun. It's everything I kind of love. So it's a little bit of mystery, a little bit of occult detective, a little bit of Sherlock, a little bit of Douglas Adams, we'll say. So yeah, I appreciate it. Oh, hey, how's it going? Kibo. It was great seeing you at the convention. That was fun. That's something that I had hoped that would be the case, is seeing some of the same people at conventions. So that's going to be fun. Yeah, so I got to run, but I hope everybody has a good rest of the evening. And I will be back on next Sunday around the same time. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.